Hello there. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Right now, as you settle in, imagine a world that looks nothing like the one we know today. A world where vast forests stretched across ancient continents and the ground trembled beneath the steps of creatures so immense, they dwarf anything alive on land today. This is the lost world of the dinosaurs. They ruled our planet for over 160 million years, far longer than humans have even existed. Some were no bigger than chickens, while others weighed more than a passenger aircraft. Some glided through the trees on feathered wings, while others thundered across the plains, shaking the earth as they walked. Tonight we journey back through the mists of deep time to explore over 100 soothing facts about these extraordinary creatures. From fossils buried in ancient rock, to feathers preserved in golden amber, from creatures that defied the limits of size, to the single moment that brought their reign to an end. There is no test at the end. No rush. No urgency. Just the gentle unfolding of prehistoric wonders to carry you softly towards sleep. So let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts soften. And allow yourself to drift peacefully into the quiet wonder of the age of dinosaurs. Welcome to Drowsy Discovery. I'm glad you found your way here tonight. Perhaps you have had a long day. Perhaps you simply enjoy falling asleep to thoughts about creatures that walked the earth millions of years before we existed. Either way, this space is for you. There is something profoundly calming about contemplating deep time. The dinosaurs lived and died in worlds we will never see. They watched continents drift, oceans rise and fall, and climates shift from tropical to frozen. And through it all, they adapted, thrived, and evolved into forms so diverse that we are still discovering new species every month. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share a thought below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, all you need to do is relax. So settle in. Let the weight of the day drift away like dust settling after ancient footsteps. And let us begin with the first of many peaceful truths about what it meant to be a dinosaur. The story of the dinosaurs is written in stone, in bone, and in the wings of every bird that flies today. Tonight, we will wander through this magnificent story. We will meet armored giants and feathered hunters, gentle plant eaters, and fearsome predators. We will discover truths about dinosaurs that may surprise even the most curious minds. But there is no hurry. The dinosaurs ruled for 160 million years. They can wait a little longer while you rest. Let us begin with what dinosaurs truly were. Dinosaurs were not actually lizards, despite their name meaning terrible lizard. The word dinosaur was coined in 1842 by the English scientist Richard Owen, combining Greek words that translate roughly as terrible lizard. Yet, despite this evocative name, dinosaurs were not lizards at all in the biological sense. They belonged to a completely different branch of the reptile family tree, separated from true lizards by hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Lizards are part of a group called Squamata, which includes snakes and iguanas, while dinosaurs belong to a group called Archosauria, which also includes crocodilians and birds. The differences between dinosaurs and lizards were profound, affecting everything from how they walked, to how they breathed, to how they regulated their body temperature. Richard Owen chose the name to convey the awe-inspiring nature of these newly discovered creatures, not to make a precise scientific classification. So while the name has stuck for nearly 2 centuries, it reflects more about Victorian sensibilities than about dinosaur biology. dinosaurs held their legs straight beneath their bodies, unlike modern reptiles. One of the most important features that set dinosaurs apart from other reptiles was the way they held their legs. While crocodiles and lizards sprawl with their limbs splayed out to the sides, dinosaurs stood with their legs positioned directly beneath their bodies, like pillars supporting a building. This upright posture was not merely a cosmetic difference, but a profound biomechanical advantage that changed everything about how dinosaurs moved through the world. With legs positioned vertically, dinosaurs could support greater body weights, move more efficiently over long distances, and achieve speeds that sprawling reptiles could not match. This erect stance freed them to evolve in directions close to their sprawling relatives, eventually producing the largest land animals ever to walk the earth. The evolutionary shift to upright posture occurred early in dinosaur history and became one of the defining characteristics of the entire group. You can see this same erect posture today in birds, the living descendants of dinosaurs, who share this ancient anatomical innovation. Dinosaurs are more closely related to birds than to any living reptile. When you watch a sparrow hopping on a branch or a hawk circling in the sky, you are observing creatures more closely related to Tyrannosaurus rex than any crocodile or lizard alive today. This is not metaphor but established scientific fact, supported by overwhelming evidence from fossils, genetics, and anatomy. Dinosaurs and birds share so many features that scientists now classify birds as living dinosaurs, specifically as members of the theropod lineage that includes velociraptors and tyrannosaurs. The connection is visible in everything from hollow bones and air sacs to wishbones and feathers. Even the way dinosaur feet were structured, with 3 forward-pointing toes and the distinctive ankle joint, is replicated precisely in modern birds. The evolutionary lineage connecting birds to their dinosaur ancestors is now so well documented through transitional fossils that the connection is considered as well established as any in paleontology. When you hear birdsong at dawn, you are hearing the descendants of the dinosaurs continuing their ancient chorus. Dinosaurs ruled the Earth for over 160 million years. The reign of the dinosaurs lasted for an almost incomprehensible span of time. From their first appearance in the Triassic period around 240 million years ago, to their catastrophic decline 66 million years ago, dinosaurs dominated terrestrial ecosystems for over 160 million years. To put this in perspective, humans in our modern form have existed for only about 300,000 years, a mere blink compared to the dinosaurian dynasty. During their long reign, dinosaurs witnessed continents drift apart, mountain ranges rise and erode, and climates shift from tropical to frozen and back again. They evolved into thousands of species, adapted to every terrestrial environment, from polar forests to scorching deserts. Entire lineages of dinosaurs rose to prominence, flourished for millions of years, and went extinct, all while other dinosaur groups continued to thrive. Their duration on Earth was so immense that species separated by time were more distant from each other than we are from the earliest dinosaurs. Many dinosaurs were likely warm-blooded, with high metabolisms, like birds and mammals. For decades, dinosaurs were depicted as cold-blooded, sluggish giants, lumbering through prehistoric landscapes with the slow metabolism of modern reptiles. This view has been thoroughly overturned by evidence suggesting that many dinosaurs were warm-blooded, or at least possessed metabolisms far more active than any living reptile. Evidence for dinosaur endothermy comes from multiple sources, including bone microstructure showing rapid growth rates, the presence of insulating feathers in many species, and isotopic analyses of dinosaur teeth that reveal body temperatures higher than their environments. Predatory dinosaurs in particular likely needed the sustained energy output that only warm-blooded metabolism can provide. The ability to stay active regardless of environmental temperature would have given dinosaurs significant advantages over their cold-blooded competitors. Their dominance for over 160 million years suggests they were not the sluggish creatures of old illustrations, but dynamic, active animals more similar to modern birds and mammals than to crocodiles or lizards. Some dinosaurs were smaller than modern chickens. When most people imagine dinosaurs, they picture enormous creatures towering over the landscape. Yet the dinosaur family included species so small they could have perched comfortably on your hand. The smallest known dinosaurs were no bigger than pigeons, and many predatory dinosaurs were about the size of modern turkeys or ravens. Microraptor, a four-winged dinosaur discovered in China, weighed less than 2 pounds and could glide between trees in ancient forests. Some of these tiny dinosaurs were the direct ancestors of modern birds, carrying on their lineage long after their larger relatives had vanished. The existence of miniature dinosaurs challenges the popular image of dinosaurs as uniformly gigantic, and reveals the extraordinary diversity of forms this group achieved over their long evolutionary history. From creatures smaller than chickens to giants larger than whales, dinosaurs explored almost every possible body size available to land animals. The largest dinosaurs weighed more than a fully loaded passenger aircraft. At the opposite extreme from the sparrow-sized species, some dinosaurs achieved sizes so immense they strained the imagination. The largest sauropods may have weighed over 70 tons, heavier than a fully loaded Boeing 737 passenger jet. These astronomical weights presented enormous physiological challenges, requiring hearts capable of pumping blood several stories up to the brain and legs strong enough to support weights no land animal approaches today. The bones of these giants had to withstand forces that would crush modern materials, yet sauropods evolved skeletons both strong and lightweight through a complex internal architecture of hollow chambers and struts. Moving such enormous bodies required massive amounts of food and highly efficient digestive systems capable of extracting every calorie from tough plant material. That such colossal creatures once walked the earth is almost beyond belief. Yet their fossilized bones provide undeniable evidence of a world populated by living mountains. Argentinosaurus may have been the largest land animal ever to exist. Among the giants of the dinosaur world, Argentinosaurus stands as one of the most massive creatures ever to walk on land. This enormous sauropod, discovered in Argentina in the 1980s, may have stretched over 30 meters from nose to tail, and weighed as much as 70 tons, or perhaps even more. Complete skeletons remain elusive, making precise measurements difficult, but even fragmentary bones reveal an animal of staggering proportions. A single vertebra from Argentinosaurus is as tall as a grown man. Its thigh bones were thicker than tree trunks, and could support more weight than the columns of ancient temples. This titan lived during the late Cretaceous period in what is now South America, browsing on vegetation that grew high above the reach of any other herbivore. Whether Argentinosaurus was truly the largest or merely one of several comparable giants remains debated, but its name has become synonymous with the awe-inspiring extremes that dinosaur evolution achieved. Some sauropod necks stretched longer than 3 buses parked end to end. The necks of sauropod dinosaurs represent one of evolution's most remarkable engineering achievements. Species like Supersaurus and Mamenchisaurus possessed necks that could extend over 15 meters in length, longer than 3 full-sized buses parked bumper to bumper. These extraordinary structures contained as many as 19 individual vertebrae, each one as large as a piece of furniture. The evolution of such extreme necks allowed sauropods to access food sources no other herbivore could reach, sweeping wide areas of vegetation while standing in one spot, or lifting their heads high into tree canopies. The necks were not held stiffly upright like a giraffe, but were flexible enough to move in wide arcs across the ground and into the treetops. Air sacs running through the vertebrae reduced the weight of these structures while maintaining strength, an innovation shared with modern birds. The sauropod neck represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement, producing one of the most distinctive silhouettes in the history of life on Earth. Brachiosaurus stood as tall as a 5-story building. With its long forelimbs held high and its neck reaching toward the sky, Brachiosaurus could lift its head to heights that would overlook a modern 5-story building. This unusual body plan, with front legs longer than hind legs, gave Brachiosaurus a distinctive upward-sloping profile, quite different from other sauropods. Standing perhaps 13 meters tall at full stretch, this dinosaur could browse on vegetation completely inaccessible to any other land animal of its time. Imagine standing at the base of an apartment building and seeing a living animal whose head rose above the roofline, quietly stripping leaves from trees that seemed impossibly high. Brachiosaurus lived during the late Jurassic period, around 150 million years ago, sharing its environment with other giants like Diplodocus and Apatosaurus. Its remains have been found in North America and Africa, evidence that these enormous creatures roamed widely across the ancient supercontinent. The smallest known dinosaur weighed less than a modern mouse. At the extreme lower end of the dinosaur size spectrum, recent discoveries have revealed dinosaurs almost unbelievably small. Oculodentavis, initially described from a skull preserved in Burmese amber, appeared to be no larger than a hummingbird. While its classification has since been debated, and it may represent a small lizard rather than a dinosaur, other genuinely tiny dinosaurs are well documented. Epidexipteryx yi and other small feathered dinosaurs weighed only a few hundred grams, light enough to glide between branches and small enough to hunt insects and other invertebrates. These diminutive dinosaurs demonstrate that evolutionary success does not require large size. By occupying ecological niches unavailable to larger species, tiny dinosaurs thrived in forest canopies and undergrowth, where giants could not follow. Their small size also proved crucial for survival, as the lineage of small feathered dinosaurs ultimately gave rise to birds, the only dinosaur group to survive the mass extinction. Many dinosaurs had feathers rather than scales. One of the most revolutionary discoveries in paleontology has been the recognition that feathers were widespread among dinosaurs, not just among the ancestors of birds, but across a much broader range of species. Fossils from China, preserved in fine-grained sediments that captured remarkable detail, have revealed feathered dinosaurs of many kinds, including tyrannosaur relatives, small predators, and even some ornithischians distantly related to the bird lineage. These feathers ranged from simple filaments resembling hair to complex structures identical to those of modern birds. The presence of feathers in so many dinosaur groups suggests that feathered ancestors may lie deep in dinosaur evolutionary history, meaning the scaly dinosaurs of classic imagery might represent the exception rather than the rule. Feathers served many purposes beyond flight, providing insulation, display structures for courtship, and possibly camouflage. The dinosaur world was far fluffier than anyone imagined just a few decades ago. Some feathered dinosaurs displayed shimmering iridescent colors. Analysis of fossilized feathers has revealed not just their structure, but sometimes their original colors, and the results have been startling. Some dinosaurs apparently sported iridescent plumage that would have shimmered and shifted color as they moved, similar to the feathers of modern grackles, starlings, and hummingbirds. The colors were produced by microscopic structures called melanosomes, which come in different shapes depending on the color they create. Round melanosomes typically produce red and orange colors, while sausage-shaped ones create black and gray. The elongated melanosomes found in some dinosaur feathers are arranged in stacked layers that produce iridescent effects through light interference. This suggests that some dinosaurs displayed plumage as spectacular as any tropical bird today, using visual signals for mate selection, species recognition, or hierarchical displays. The dinosaur world was not the drab landscape of gray and brown depicted in older reconstructions, but a vivid pageant of color and light. Fossilized feathers reveal patterns of black, orange, red, and metallic hues. By examining the shape and arrangement of melanosomes preserved in fossilized feathers, paleontologists have reconstructed the colors and patterns of dinosaurs that died millions of years ago. Sinosauropteryx, a small feathered dinosaur from China, bore a banded tail with alternating rings of rusty orange and white. Anchiornis displayed a pattern of black and gray feathers with a rusty crown on its head. Microraptor had black feathers with an iridescent sheen similar to a raven. These reconstructions transform our understanding of what dinosaurs actually looked like, replacing speculation with evidence-based imagery. The presence of countershading patterns, darker on top and lighter below, suggests that some dinosaurs used their coloration for camouflage, just as many modern animals do. Each new discovery adds another color to our palette of dinosaur knowledge, painting an ever more vivid picture of the prehistoric world. Dinosaurs came in a rainbow of colors, not just dull greens and browns. For more than a century, artists depicted dinosaurs in the subdued colors of modern reptiles, favoring grays, browns, and olive greens. This conservative approach was understandable given the lack of direct evidence for dinosaur coloration. But discoveries of preserved color-producing structures have revealed that many dinosaurs were far more colorful than anyone imagined. From rusty oranges to deep blacks, from iridescent sheens to bold stripes and spots, the dinosaur color palette was as varied as that of modern birds, and perhaps more so. Bright colors in modern animals typically serve purposes of display, warning, or camouflage, and there is no reason to think dinosaurs were any different. The dinosaur world may have been ablaze with visual signals as complex and varied as any tropical forest today. While we can never see these colors with our own eyes, the evidence preserved in stone allows us to imagine a world far more vibrant than the gray landscapes of older dinosaur films. Some dinosaurs had camouflage patterns to help them hide from predators. Not all dinosaur coloration was about display. Some species evolved patterns designed specifically to help them disappear. Fossil analysis of Psittacosaurus, a small beaked dinosaur from China, revealed countershading appropriate for an animal living in forested environments where light filtered down from above. The dinosaur was darker on its back and lighter on its belly, a pattern that cancels out the shadowing effect of overhead light and makes an animal harder to see. This same camouflage strategy is used by countless modern animals, from fish to deer. Other dinosaurs may have worn disruptive patterns similar to zebra stripes or leopard spots, breaking up their outlines and confusing predators. For small dinosaurs facing a world full of sharp-eyed predators, invisibility was often more valuable than flashy display. The evolution of camouflage patterns shows that dinosaur ecosystems were places of intense visual competition, where being seen could mean being eaten. Bold color patterns may have been used to frighten rivals or attract mates. If dinosaurs could see in color as well as their bird descendants do today, then bright colors and bold patterns would have been powerful social signals. Males might have used vivid plumage to attract females or to intimidate competing males, just as peacocks, birds of paradise, and countless other modern species do. The elaborate crests, frills, and horns of many dinosaurs were likely enhanced with striking colors that would have made these structures even more impressive as display organs. Some scientists have suggested that patches of bright color might have served as warning signals, telling predators that a potential meal was dangerous or unpalatable. Others propose that contrasting patterns might have helped herd animals recognize members of their own species. Whatever their function, the color patterns of dinosaurs were almost certainly richer and more meaningful than we can fully appreciate from the silent evidence of bone and stone. The tiniest dinosaur eggs ever found are smaller than a quail egg. Dinosaur eggs came in an astounding range of sizes, from enormous spheres larger than a soccer ball to tiny capsules no bigger than modern quail eggs. The smallest dinosaur eggs, laid by species like Mosaurus, measured only a few centimeters in length and would have hatched into babies small enough to fit in the palm of your hand. These diminutive eggs are often found in clusters, suggesting that even small dinosaurs laid multiple eggs to ensure at least some offspring survived the dangerous journey to adulthood. The shells of these tiny eggs were surprisingly thin and fragile, requiring careful conditions for preservation. Finding such delicate structures intact after 65 million years or more is remarkable, and speaks to the extraordinary preservational conditions at certain fossil sites. Each tiny egg represents the origin point of a life that would grow enormously from such humble beginnings. The largest dinosaur eggs were bigger than a basketball. At the other extreme, some dinosaurs laid eggs of truly impressive dimensions. The eggs of certain sauropods and large theropods measured over 30 centimeters in length, larger than a basketball and capable of holding up to 2 liters of fluid. These enormous eggs contained embryos that had already grown significantly before hatching, yet still emerged as relatively small babies compared to their parents. A hatchling sauropod might weigh only a few kilograms, despite having parents weighing tens of tons, meaning these animals had to grow by a factor of thousands during their lifetime. The shells of large dinosaur eggs were correspondingly thick, sometimes several millimeters of hard calcium carbonate protecting the developing embryo inside. Despite their size, even the largest dinosaur eggs were limited by physical constraints on how thick a shell could be, while still allowing oxygen to reach the developing embryo. Some dinosaurs laid clutches of dozens of eggs at once. Rather than investing everything in a single offspring, many dinosaurs pursued a strategy of laying numerous eggs in each clutch. Fossilized nests have been found containing 20, 30, or even more eggs, arranged in careful patterns within scooped-out depressions in the ground. This reproductive strategy made sense in a world full of predators eager to consume vulnerable eggs and hatchlings. By producing many offspring at once, dinosaurs ensured that at least some would survive, even if predators took a heavy toll. Some nesting sites contain the remains of dozens of nests in close proximity, suggesting that dinosaurs gathered in large groups to lay their eggs, perhaps gaining some protection through numbers. The effort required to produce so many eggs must have been considerable, requiring females to consume large amounts of calcium to build the shells and to find or prepare suitable nesting sites. Baby dinosaurs sometimes stayed in nests for months after hatching. Evidence from fossils suggests that some dinosaur species provided extended parental care, with hatchlings remaining in or near the nest for weeks or months after emerging from their eggs. Maiasaura, whose name means good mother lizard, was one of the first dinosaurs found associated with compelling evidence for parental care. Baby Maiasaura fossils found in nests showed tooth wear, indicating they had been eating food for some time, yet their leg bones were not fully developed, suggesting they were too young to leave the nest and forage independently. This implies that parents must have been bringing food to the nest to feed their growing young. Such extended care would have given hatchlings time to develop the strength and coordination needed to survive in a dangerous world. Not all dinosaurs provided such care. Some likely abandoned their eggs after laying, as many modern reptiles do. Some hatchlings had sharp teeth that disappeared as they grew older. The dietary needs of baby dinosaurs often differed from those of adults, and some species evolved remarkable adaptations to meet these changing requirements. Some hadrosaur hatchlings possessed sharp teeth suited for eating insects or other small prey, even though adults were dedicated plant eaters with complex grinding tooth batteries. As these dinosaurs grew, their baby teeth were replaced by the flat, grinding teeth appropriate for processing tough vegetation. This dietary shift from carnivory or omnivory in youth to herbivory in adulthood allowed young dinosaurs to exploit food sources unavailable to their parents, reducing competition between generations. Similar ontogenetic dietary shifts occur in some modern animals, including certain lizards and turtles. The presence of juvenile teeth in fossil hatchlings reveals the complexity of dinosaur life histories and the remarkable adaptations they evolved to survive different life stages. Certain dinosaurs grew incredibly fast, gaining dozens of pounds each day. The growth rates of dinosaurs were nothing short of extraordinary. Studies of growth rings in dinosaur bones, similar to tree rings, reveal that some species added weight at almost unbelievable speeds during their juvenile years. Young tyrannosaurs may have gained over 2 kilograms per day during their period of maximum growth, maintaining this explosive rate for several years. Sauropod dinosaurs grew even faster in absolute terms, packing on enough mass to transform from hatchlings the size of cats into adults heavier than whales within just a couple of decades. Such rapid growth required enormous caloric intake and highly efficient metabolism. The ability to grow quickly conferred major survival advantages, as larger individuals were less vulnerable to predators and could compete more effectively for resources. This growth strategy differed fundamentally from that of modern reptiles, which grow slowly throughout their lives and more closely resembled the rapid growth seen in birds and mammals. Fossils show some dinosaurs brooding their nests like modern birds. Remarkable fossil discoveries have captured dinosaurs in the very act of caring for their eggs, frozen in time while sitting on their nests in postures strikingly similar to those of modern brooding birds. Several specimens of oviraptorosaurs have been found with their arms spread over clutches of eggs, bodies lowered in the classic incubating posture. These fossils suggest that at least some dinosaurs used their body heat to warm their eggs, a behavior once thought exclusive to birds and their immediate ancestors. The presence of feathered arms in brooding specimens makes perfect sense, as feathers would help retain heat and protect eggs from the elements. These snapshots of parental behavior are among the most emotionally evocative dinosaur fossils ever discovered, showing creatures engaged in the same tender care that modern birds display toward their eggs. Each brooding dinosaur fossil adds to our understanding of how widespread and sophisticated parental care was among dinosaurs. Oviraptors were once thought to be egg thieves but were actually protecting their own eggs. The name oviraptor means egg thief, a misnomer based on a tragic misunderstanding that has persisted in the scientific literature. When the first oviraptor specimen was discovered in the 1920s in Mongolia, it was found near a nest of eggs assumed to belong to Protoceratops, a common herbivore in the same deposits. Scientists concluded that Oviraptor had been caught in the act of stealing another dinosaur's eggs. Decades later, embryos found inside similar eggs revealed that they were actually Oviraptor eggs, not Protoceratops eggs at all. The original oviraptor had died while protecting or incubating its own nest, not raiding someone else's. This correction transformed our understanding of oviraptorosaurs from sneaky nest raiders to devoted parents. The story serves as a reminder that initial interpretations of fossils can be spectacularly wrong, and that new discoveries can completely overturn long-held assumptions. Some dinosaur parents may have brought food to their young in the nest. Evidence from fossil nests suggests that some dinosaur parents provided extended care beyond simply incubating eggs, probably including the provision of food to helpless hatchlings. Baby Maiasaura found in nests show tooth wear indicating they had been eating, yet their leg bones were not fully developed enough for them to have ventured far from the nest. This suggests that adults must have been bringing food to their young, perhaps regurgitating partially digested plant material or carrying vegetation in their mouths. Such feeding behavior would have allowed hatchlings to grow rapidly while remaining in the relative safety of the nest. The energy investment required for this level of parental care is substantial and suggests that raising offspring was a major focus of adult dinosaur life. Similar care is seen today in many bird species and some crocodilians, supporting the idea that such behavior was inherited from deep within dinosaur evolutionary history. Fossilized trackways show adults walking alongside juveniles. Trace fossils offer unique windows into dinosaur behavior that bones alone cannot reveal, and some trackway sites preserve compelling evidence of family groups traveling together. At various locations around the world, the footprints of adult dinosaurs are accompanied by the smaller prints of juveniles of the same species, walking in parallel lines or with the youngsters positioned safely between or behind the adults. In some cases, the spacing between footprints indicates that the group was moving at a pace the smallest members could maintain, suggesting that adults accommodated the limited capabilities of their young. Other trackways show what appear to be herds that segregated by age, with juveniles traveling in groups separate from adults. These preserved walks across ancient mudflats and riverbanks capture moments of family life that occurred millions of years ago, offering glimpses of social structures and relationships we could never deduce from skeletal remains alone. Communal nesting grounds suggest dinosaurs returned to the same sites year after year. Certain fossil localities contain layer upon layer of dinosaur nests, accumulated over many years as populations returned repeatedly to the same nesting grounds. Sites like Egg Mountain in Montana, where Maiasaura nests are found in multiple stacked layers, provide evidence that dinosaurs exhibited the same kind of site fidelity seen in modern sea turtles, penguins, and many colonial nesting birds. These traditional nesting grounds may have offered particularly favorable conditions for egg development, including appropriate soil temperature, moisture levels, and drainage. Returning to proven successful sites would have increased the chances of raising offspring successfully. The accumulation of nests at these locations has created treasure troves for paleontologists, allowing the study of nesting behavior, egg structure, and embryonic development from hundreds of specimens found in close association. These communal nesting sites also suggest that dinosaurs had sophisticated navigation abilities and perhaps cultural traditions passed from generation to generation. Some dinosaurs had up to 1,000 teeth arranged in batteries. The dental equipment of some herbivorous dinosaurs was extraordinarily sophisticated, featuring hundreds or even over 1,000 teeth working together as grinding machines. Hadrosaurs and ceratopsians evolved dental batteries consisting of multiple rows of teeth stacked on top of one another, with new teeth constantly growing in from below to replace worn ones at the grinding surface. A single hadrosaur might have had as many as 1,200 teeth in its jaws at any one time, packed tightly together to form efficient chewing surfaces. These tooth batteries function somewhat like the grinding plates in a mill, breaking down tough plant material through repeated chewing motions. The evolution of such complex dental systems allowed these dinosaurs to exploit food sources that would have been indigestible to animals with simpler teeth. No modern animal possesses anything quite like the dinosaur dental battery, a unique evolutionary innovation that contributed to the tremendous success of these plant-eating groups. Hadrosaurs had one of the most advanced chewing systems ever seen in a reptile. The hadrosaurs, commonly called duck-billed dinosaurs, evolved a feeding apparatus so sophisticated that it rivals the chewing abilities of modern mammals, despite being developed entirely independently. Their dental batteries contained hundreds of diamond-shaped teeth packed together into grinding pads, with new teeth constantly emerging to replace those worn away by the abrasive plant material they consumed. The jaws of hadrosaurs could move not just up and down, but also from side to side, allowing true chewing in a rotary motion rather than simple scissoring. This transverse movement was made possible by a flexible hinge between the upper jaw and skull that allowed the tooth rows to slide against each other. The efficiency of this system allowed hadrosaurs to break down the toughest plant tissues, extracting more nutrition from each mouthful than simpler feeders could manage. Their success as a group, becoming among the most common dinosaurs of the late Cretaceous, was surely aided by the remarkable evolution of their chewing apparatus. Many dinosaurs could grow new teeth throughout their entire lives. Unlike mammals, which get only 2 sets of teeth during their lifetime, dinosaurs and other reptiles could replace their teeth continuously throughout their lives. Some predatory dinosaurs like Tyrannosaurus shed old teeth and grew new ones every few months, ensuring that their main weapons were always sharp and functional. This constant replacement meant that dinosaurs did not have to worry about dental problems that could prove fatal to mammals, whose teeth must last a lifetime. Shed dinosaur teeth are among the most common fossils found at many sites, vastly outnumbering the rare complete skeletons that command so much attention. Each tooth found represents just one of the many that a single dinosaur might have produced during its lifetime. The ability to replace teeth continuously was inherited from ancestral reptiles and proved advantageous for dinosaurs facing the wear and tear of eating, fighting, and the occasional tooth lost during prey capture. Tyrannosaurus rex could bite with more force than any land animal in history. When the massive jaws of Tyrannosaurus rex snapped shut on prey, they generated forces unmatched by any other land animal ever discovered. Estimates based on jaw muscle size, skull structure, and bite marks left on bones suggest that an adult Tyrannosaurus could deliver a bite force exceeding 50,000 newtons, equivalent to the weight of several cars pressing down on a single point. This incredible crushing power allowed Tyrannosaurus to bite through solid bone, pulverizing the skeletons of its prey rather than carefully avoiding them as other predators do. Tyrannosaur teeth were not thin and blade-like but thick and robust, shaped like railroad spikes and explicitly designed to withstand the stresses of crushing bone. Bite marks found on the bones of prey dinosaurs confirm that these fearsome predators regularly consumed bone along with meat. Such extreme bite force required a heavily reinforced skull and powerful neck muscles, features visible in Tyrannosaurus fossils, and testament to the engineering requirements of being the most powerful biting animal ever to walk on land. Some dinosaurs swallowed stones called gastroliths to help grind their food. Many dinosaurs that lacked sophisticated chewing teeth employed a different strategy for breaking down tough plant material, swallowing stones that would grind food in their muscular gizzards. These gastroliths, meaning stomach stones, have been found associated with dinosaur fossils, and even preserved within body cavities, where the digestive system once sat. The stones show distinctive polishing from constant grinding against each other and against plant material, making them recognizable even when found separately from dinosaur remains. Modern birds like ostriches and chickens use essentially the same system, swallowing grit that aids in grinding seeds and tough vegetation. For sauropods and other dinosaurs that swallowed their food whole without chewing, gastroliths would have been essential for extracting nutrition from their meals. The presence of polished stones inside dinosaur body fossils provides direct evidence of digestive processes and eating habits that otherwise leave no trace in the fossil record. Ankylosaurus carried armor so strong it could resist a T-Rex bite. The ankylosaurs were the tanks of the dinosaur world, and Ankylosaurus itself was the most heavily armored of them all. This remarkable creature was covered from head to tail in bony plates called osteoderms, embedded in the skin and forming a nearly impenetrable shell over its entire upper surface. Even the eyelids of Ankylosaurus contained bony armor, ensuring that no vulnerable soft tissue was exposed to predator attack. The osteoderms were composed of dense bone and keratin, the same material that makes up fingernails and rhino horns, creating a composite armor of remarkable strength. Scientists have calculated that this armor could potentially deflect or absorb the tremendous bite force of even the largest predators, including Tyrannosaurus rex that shared its late Cretaceous habitat. For a predator to successfully attack Ankylosaurus, it would somehow have to flip the animal over to reach its unarmored belly. No easy task, given that adults weighed several tons and kept their centers of gravity low to the ground. Some dinosaurs had tails tipped with heavy clubs made of solid bone. The ankylosaurs possessed one of the most formidable defensive weapons ever evolved, a massive bony club at the end of the tail that could be swung with devastating force. This tail club consisted of several fused vertebrae and enlarged osteoderms welded together into a solid mass of bone that could weigh over 40 kilograms in large individuals. The tail itself was stiffened with bony tendons that locked the vertebrae together, allowing the club to be swung as a rigid unit rather than flexing uselessly. Biomechanical analysis suggests that a blow from an ankylosaur tail club could deliver enough force to shatter the leg bones of an attacking predator and cause serious internal injuries. Unlike passive armor, the tail club allowed ankylosaurs to actively defend themselves and counterattack against even the largest predators. This weapon was likely also used in combat between ankylosaurs themselves, perhaps for establishing dominance or competing for mates. Stegosaurus wielded tail spikes that could impale attacking predators. The distinctive tail of Stegosaurus ended in a fearsome array of pointed spikes, typically 4 in number, that could be driven into an attacker with lethal effect. These spikes, unofficially dubbed the Thagomizer by fans of a famous comic strip, were genuine weapons that could cause serious injury or death to even large predators. Fossil evidence confirms that these spikes were used in combat, as Allosaurus vertebrae have been found with puncture wounds that match Stegosaurus tail spikes precisely. The flexible tail would have allowed Stegosaurus to swing its spikes in defensive arcs, targeting predators that approached too closely. Unlike the tail clubs of ankylosaurs, the sharp spikes could penetrate flesh, causing bleeding wounds and risking infection in their victims. At almost a meter in length, these spikes represented a genuine deterrent to any predator considering an attack on a healthy adult Stegosaurus. Triceratops horns could grow over 3 feet long. The 3 horns that give Triceratops its name were formidable structures, with the 2 brow horns potentially exceeding 1 meter in length in large adults. These horns were made of bone cores covered in keratin sheaths, similar in structure to cattle horns but far larger and more robust. The horns were positioned to present a dangerous front toward any predator, turning the face of Triceratops into a wall of pointed weapons. Evidence of healed injuries on Triceratops skulls, including holes that match the size and shape of horn tips, confirms that these horns were used in combat between individuals, probably for territorial or mating disputes. Against predators like Tyrannosaurus, the horns would have presented a significant deterrent, capable of inflicting deep wounds in any attacker that failed to approach carefully. The image of Triceratops lowering its massive head and charging its 3-foot horns toward a predator is one of the most iconic scenes we can imagine from the late Cretaceous. Some dinosaurs could regrow broken horns over time. Keratin-covered horns and other projections in dinosaurs could potentially repair themselves after damage, though the bone cores underneath were less able to regenerate if broken. Fossils show evidence of horn injuries in various stages of healing, from fresh breakage to fully remodeled bone that has recovered from trauma. This regenerative capacity meant that horn damage sustained in combat was not necessarily permanent, and an individual that survived a fight could eventually restore its weaponry to full function. The rate of horn regeneration would have varied depending on factors like age, nutrition, and the severity of the injury. Modern animals with keratin horns and hooves also show this regenerative ability, as the keratin continues growing throughout life from cells at the base of the structure. For dinosaurs that relied on horns for defense or social competition, the ability to recover from damage would have been an important adaptation for long-term survival. Titanosaurs had skin studded with bony plates embedded like natural armor. Even the enormous sauropod dinosaurs, often imagined as undefended giants, relying solely on size for protection, sometimes possessed armor of their own. Some titanosaurs had osteoderms embedded in their skin, bony plates of various sizes that provided an extra layer of defense against predator teeth and claws. These armor plates were not as extensive as those of ankylosaurs, but still added meaningful protection to animals that were otherwise vulnerable to attack from large theropods. The osteoderms were scattered across the back and sides, positioned where biting predators were most likely to attack. The combination of enormous size and armored skin would have made large titanosaurs nearly invulnerable to all but the most determined and largest predators. The discovery of armored sauropods surprised paleontologists, who had long assumed that great size alone provided sufficient protection for these massive herbivores. Ceratopsians had frills that may have displayed species identity. The bony frills extending from the back of ceratopsian skulls represent some of the most elaborate display structures in dinosaur history. Each species of ceratopsian evolved its own distinctive frill shape, size, and ornamentation, creating a visual diversity that would have made species identification straightforward even at a distance. Some frills were solid shields of bone, while others featured large fenestrae or windows that reduced weight while maintaining impressive size. The edges of many frills were decorated with spikes, knobs, and scalloped patterns unique to each species. While these frills may have offered some protection to the neck, their enormous variation suggests that display was their primary function. Just as modern birds use distinctive plumage patterns for species recognition, ceratopsians likely used their frills to identify members of their own kind and to attract mates. The explosion of frill diversity during the late Cretaceous suggests intense sexual selection driving ever more elaborate displays. Pachycephalosaurs had domed skulls thicker than a cricket bat. The pachycephalosaurs, known as dome-headed dinosaurs, possessed skulls of extraordinary thickness, with the bone over the brain measuring up to 25 centimeters thick in some species. This massive dome of solid bone was unlike anything seen in other vertebrates, and clearly represented a specialized adaptation for some specific purpose. The dome was composed of dense bone, reinforced with a network of internal struts, creating a structure far stronger than its size alone would suggest. In some species, the dome was smooth and rounded, while in others it was ornamented with knobs, spikes and bumps around the margins. The brain itself was relatively small and well protected beneath this bony cap. Whatever the dome was used for, whether combat, display, or both, it represented a significant investment of energy and resources to produce and maintain such a massive structure. Dome-headed dinosaurs may have headbutted each other in ritual contests. The obvious similarity between pachycephalosaur domes and the headbutting equipment of modern rams and other bovids led naturally to the hypothesis that these dinosaurs engaged in similar combative behavior. The idea of dome-headed dinosaurs running at each other and crashing skulls together is visually compelling, but the evidence is more complicated than it first appears. Some analyses suggest that pachycephalosaur necks were not aligned properly for head-on collisions, and that the domes would have slid off each other rather than meeting squarely. Alternative hypotheses propose that the domes were used for flank butting, striking the sides of opponents rather than head-to-head combat. Whatever the exact mechanics, the presence of such elaborate skull structures strongly suggests some form of physical competition between individuals. Modern animals with similar equipment invariably use them in some form of combat, and there is no reason to think pachycephalosaurs were different. Parasaurolophus had a crest that could grow up to 6 feet long. Among the most spectacular dinosaur skulls, the curved tubular crest of Parasaurolophus stretched backward from the head for nearly 2 meters in the largest individuals. This hollow crest contained convoluted nasal passages that looped from the nostrils up through the crest and back down into the skull, creating an internal tube many times longer than the visible external structure. The crest was constructed of the same bones that form the nasal passages in other animals, dramatically elongated and transformed into an elaborate projection. Growing and maintaining such a massive structure must have required significant energy and resources, suggesting it served an important function. The crest would certainly have made Parasaurolophus instantly recognizable to others of its kind, and different species of crested hadrosaurs had distinctively shaped crests that would have enabled species identification at a glance. Hollow crests allowed some hadrosaurs to make deep resonant calls. The elaborate hollow crests of Lambeosaurine hadrosaurs were not merely ornamental, but functioned as resonating chambers that could produce sound. Computer modeling of the convoluted nasal passages within these crests has allowed scientists to estimate the sounds they would have produced. Parasaurolophus, with its long curved crest, would likely have produced deep, resonant calls, perhaps similar to the low notes of a trombone or the bellowing of modern elephants. The specific shape and size of each species' crest would have produced distinctive sounds, creating a soundtrack of voices as varied as the visual diversity of crest shapes. These calls would have carried across ancient landscapes, allowing hadrosaurs to communicate over long distances, keep track of herd members, and perhaps signal alarm at approaching predators. The hadrosaur world was probably far from silent, filled with the booming calls of these extraordinary vocal dinosaurs. Dilophosaurus had distinctive twin crests on its skull, likely used for display. Dilophosaurus, one of the earliest large predatory dinosaurs, sported a pair of bony crests rising from the top of its skull like parallel blades. These crests were thin and fragile, clearly unsuited for combat, and almost certainly serving a display function. The crests may have been brightly colored in life, enhanced with keratin sheaths or skin, making them even more impressive than the bare bone suggests. Unlike the protective frills of ceratopsians, or the potentially combative domes of pachycephalosaurs, the delicate crests of Dilophosaurus were pure advertisement, signals of fitness and species identity. Many theropod dinosaurs evolved cranial crests of various shapes, from small ridges to elaborate horns and projections, suggesting that visual display was important throughout their evolutionary history. The presence of such elaborate ornamentation in a predatory dinosaur reminds us that even the most fearsome hunters lived complex social lives that extended beyond simply finding and consuming prey. Some dinosaurs could sprint faster than an Olympic runner. The fastest dinosaurs could achieve speeds that would leave even elite human sprinters struggling in their wake. Estimates based on leg proportions, trackway analysis, and biomechanical modeling suggest that some ornithomimid dinosaurs could sprint at speeds exceeding 60 km per hour. This is considerably faster than the approximately 37 km per hour achieved by the fastest human sprinter over short distances. The speed champions of the dinosaur world shared many features with modern fast runners, including long, slender legs, lightweight bodies, and digitigrade posture with the foot bones elongated. Their leg muscles were positioned to maximize the speed of leg movements, rather than raw power. Running at such speeds would have made these dinosaurs difficult targets for predators and allowed them to chase down fast-moving prey when hunting insects or small vertebrates. The evolution of extreme speed in multiple dinosaur lineages demonstrates the importance of locomotion in the struggle for survival. Ornithomimus had long, slender legs built for speed like a modern ostrich. The ornithomimids, whose name means bird mimics, were remarkably convergent with modern ostriches and other ratite birds in their body proportions and probable lifestyle. Ornithomimus itself possessed long, slender legs with elongated shin and foot bones, exactly the proportions seen in fast-running birds today. The upper leg bones that anchored the powerful running muscles were proportionally shorter, placing the heaviest muscles close to the body and reducing the weight of the swinging limbs. This arrangement allows for faster leg movement and therefore higher running speeds. The resemblance to ostriches extended beyond legs to include a small head on a long neck, a toothless beak that probably ate a varied diet, and possibly feathers covering the body. If you could travel back in time to the late Cretaceous and see Ornithomimus from a distance, you might momentarily mistake it for some strange species of giant bird, rather than recognizing it as a dinosaur. Diplodocus could whip its tail at speeds that may have broken the sound barrier. The extraordinarily long tails of diplodocid sauropods ended in thin, whip-like tips that some researchers believe could have been cracked like a bullwhip, potentially producing sonic booms. Computer simulations suggest that the tapering structure of the tail was mechanically suited for exactly this kind of motion, accelerating the tip to supersonic speeds as the heavier base swung in a slower arc. If Diplodocus and its relatives could indeed crack their tails in this fashion, the resulting boom would have been audible across vast distances and might have served as a communication signal or a deterrent against predators. Critics of this hypothesis argue that the delicate bones at the tail tip would have been damaged by such violent motion. Whether or not supersonic tail cracking occurred, the tails of these dinosaurs were clearly capable of powerful defensive sweeps that could knock a predator off its feet. The physics of whip dynamics applied to sauropod tails creates one of the more dramatic and debated scenarios in dinosaur behavior reconstruction. Sauropods held their necks horizontally to sweep wide feeding areas. The question of how sauropod dinosaurs held their magnificent necks has generated considerable debate among paleontologists. Many reconstructions show these dinosaurs with necks held high like giraffes, reaching into treetops for food unavailable to other herbivores. However, analysis of neck vertebrae and their range of motion suggests that many sauropods actually held their necks more or less horizontal, sweeping wide arcs across the ground and mid-level vegetation. This horizontal feeding posture would have allowed a standing sauropod to clear a large circular area of vegetation without taking a single step, reducing the energy costs of feeding. The blood pressure required to lift the head to extreme heights would be enormous, potentially higher than any known biological circulatory system could sustain. Different sauropod species likely had different feeding styles, with some reaching high and others focusing on lower vegetation, thereby reducing competition in mixed dinosaur communities. Some dinosaurs may have been capable swimmers crossing rivers and lakes. While no dinosaur was fully adapted for aquatic life in the way that whales or seals are today, many dinosaurs were probably competent swimmers when the need arose. Trackway evidence from some sites shows dinosaurs walking in shallow water and occasionally swimming, with footprints becoming lighter and eventually disappearing as water depth increased. Spinosaurus and its relatives show skeletal adaptations suggesting they spent considerable time in water, including dense bones that would have aided in sinking below the surface, paddle-like feet, and tails resembling those of crocodilians. Other dinosaurs, while not aquatic specialists, would have been capable of crossing rivers and lakes in their environments when seasonal patterns or food availability required it. Modern elephants are surprisingly good swimmers despite their bulk, and there is no reason to think that similarly sized dinosaurs could not have matched this ability. The image of dinosaurs paddling across ancient waterways adds another dimension to our understanding of their lives. Velociraptor was only about the size of a turkey, not a human-sized monster. Despite its terrifying reputation from blockbuster films, the real Velociraptor was a surprisingly modest-sized animal, roughly the size of a large turkey and standing only about knee-high to an adult human. This small but deadly predator weighed perhaps 15 to 20 kilograms and measured about 2 meters from nose to tail, with most of that length being tail. Velociraptor was covered in feathers, giving it an appearance quite different from the scaly creature depicted in movies. Its actual appearance would have been more reminiscent of an aggressive ground-dwelling bird than the human-sized reptile of cinema. The larger dromaeosaurids that inspired the movie version were species like Deinonychus and Utahraptor, which reached far more impressive dimensions. Nevertheless, the real Velociraptor was a formidable predator for its size, equipped with sharp teeth, grasping hands, and the infamous killing claw that made dromaeosaurids so effective as hunters. Raptors carried a sickle-shaped killing claw on each hind foot. The most distinctive feature of dromaeosaurid dinosaurs, the group commonly called raptors, was the enlarged sickle-shaped claw on the second toe of each hind foot. This claw, held elevated off the ground during walking and running to keep it sharp, could be swung downward with considerable force when attacking prey. The killing claw of Deinonychus measured over 12 centimeters around its outer curve, while in larger species like Utahraptor, it could reach over 20 centimeters. The claw was flattened from side to side like a blade, rather than round in cross-section, and its inner edge was sharp enough to slice through hide and flesh. When attacking prey, raptors likely used their claws to grip onto victims, while their jaws inflicted biting wounds, or to deliver slashing kicks that could open deep gashes. This formidable weapon evolved millions of years before any similar mammalian predator appeared, and made dromaeosaurids among the most efficient small to medium-sized predators of the Mesozoic. Those curved claws were sharper than steak knives. Analysis of well-preserved raptor claws reveals that these weapons were kept exceptionally sharp, honed by the constant wearing against hard surfaces as the dinosaurs walked, and the growth of new keratin from the base. The tips of these claws could puncture with relatively little force, while the curved blade edge could slice through tissue with deadly efficiency. Biomechanical studies suggest that raptor claws were not primarily slashing weapons, but were used more for gripping and climbing onto prey, with the sharp point providing purchase on struggling victims. Once a raptor had climbed onto its prey, it could use its weight and its biting jaws to inflict damage, while maintaining its grip with those hooked claws. The keratin sheath over the bone core would have extended the functional length of the claw beyond what we see in fossils, making the weapon even more impressive in life than the bone alone suggests. These precision instruments of predation represent one of evolution's most elegant solutions to the challenge of subduing prey. Raptors may have hunted in coordinated packs like wolves. The question of whether dromaeosaurid dinosaurs hunted cooperatively has generated extensive debate among paleontologists. Famous fossil sites like the Deinonychus quarry in Montana preserved multiple predators alongside a single large prey animal, suggesting pack hunting similar to that seen in modern wolves. However, this interpretation has been challenged by researchers who point out that modern crocodilians and Komodo dragons also gather at carcasses without being pack hunters. The feeding behavior of these reptiles, in which multiple individuals compete at a single food source, could produce similar fossil assemblages without requiring cooperative hunting. Nevertheless, the brain size and sensory capabilities of dromaeosaurids suggest they were cognitively sophisticated animals capable of coordinated behavior. If they did hunt in groups, they would have been terrifyingly effective, able to bring down prey far larger than any individual could tackle alone. Whether their group behavior was truly cooperative or merely aggregative remains an open question. Giganotosaurus was even larger than Tyrannosaurus rex. While Tyrannosaurus rex holds the title of most famous large predatory dinosaur, it was not quite the largest theropod ever to evolve. Giganotosaurus from Argentina measured slightly longer than T. rex, potentially reaching over 13 meters in length from snout to tail. This enormous predator lived in South America during the late Cretaceous, where it hunted the giant titanosaur sauropods that dominated that continent's ecosystems. Giganotosaurus had a narrower skull and more blade-like teeth than T. rex, suggesting a different hunting style focused on slashing bites rather than bone-crushing power. Other contenders for the largest theropod include Spinosaurus and Carcharodontosaurus from Africa. The competition among these massive predators highlights the remarkable fact that the very largest land carnivores ever to exist were dinosaurs, with no mammal coming close to matching their enormous sizes. T. rex had arms strong enough to lift several hundred pounds, despite their size. The tiny arms of Tyrannosaurus rex have been the subject of endless jokes and speculation, but these seemingly absurd appendages were actually powerful limbs capable of substantial work. Muscle attachment scars on the arm bones indicate that T. rex arms were equipped with robust musculature capable of exerting considerable force. Estimates suggest these arms could curl over 200 kilograms each, stronger than the arms of most humans, despite being proportionally tiny for such an enormous animal. The arms could not reach the animal's mouth, ruling out a role in feeding, but they may have been used to grasp struggling prey, to help the animal rise from a prone position, or during mating. Some researchers suggest the arms were evolutionary leftovers, slowly shrinking over generations, as the massive head took over functions formerly performed by the forelimbs. Whatever their purpose, T. rex arms were functional structures, not useless vestigial appendages, even if their function remains debated. Spinosaurus may have hunted both on land and in water. Recent discoveries have revolutionized our understanding of Spinosaurus, revealing it as the most aquatically adapted dinosaur yet known. This enormous predator, possibly the largest theropod ever at over 15 meters long, appears to have been comfortable both on land and in water, spending considerable time hunting in rivers and coastal waters. Its elongated jaws were filled with conical teeth, suited for catching slippery fish, rather than the serrated blades of typical meat-eating dinosaurs. The nostrils were positioned high on the skull, allowing breath to be drawn while the snout was partially submerged, and the throat had no connection to the nasal passages, as in modern crocodilians. This incredible dinosaur blurred the line between land predator and aquatic hunter, exploiting resources that other large theropods could not access. Its semi-aquatic lifestyle makes Spinosaurus one of the most unusual and fascinating dinosaurs ever discovered. Spinosaurus had a crocodile-like snout and dense bones for swimming. The adaptations of Spinosaurus for aquatic life extended beyond its crocodile-like jaws to include fundamental changes in bone structure unlike any other dinosaur. While most dinosaurs have hollow bones that reduced weight for movement on land, Spinosaurus had unusually dense bones, particularly in its limbs. Dense bones would have made the animal heavier and less buoyant, helping it to sink below the water surface when pursuing fish and other aquatic prey. The feet of Spinosaurus appear to have been broad and perhaps webbed, creating paddles for efficient swimming. Most dramatically, recent discoveries revealed that Spinosaurus had a tall, flexible tail that was shaped like a paddle or oar, clearly adapted for propelling the animal through water. This combination of features paints a picture of a dinosaur that spent substantial time in rivers and lakes, an ecological role no other large dinosaur is known to have filled. Carnotaurus had horns above its eyes and absurdly tiny arms. Among the most bizarre-looking predatory dinosaurs, Carnotaurus from South America sported a pair of thick horns jutting forward from above its eyes, giving it a distinctly bull-like appearance. These horns were composed of solid bone and may have been used in combat between individuals, perhaps in ritual headbutting contests for mates or territory. The arms of Carnotaurus were even more reduced than those of T. rex, so absurdly tiny that they barely extended past the chest and had virtually no function that scientists can identify. Each arm bore 4 stubby fingers, but the entire limb was smaller than a human forearm on an animal over 7 meters long. The skull was short and deep, with powerful jaw muscles capable of delivering quick biting attacks. Carnotaurus was built for speed and could likely run down prey with pursuits rather than ambushes, making it one of the faster large theropods despite its unusual appearance. Some small feathered dinosaurs could glide between trees like flying squirrels. Before powered flight evolved in the lineage leading to birds, some small feathered dinosaurs experimented with gliding as a means of travel through forest canopies. Yiqi and Ambopteryx from China possessed membranous wings supported by a bony rod extending from the wrist, creating a wing structure more like a bat than a bird. These wings would have allowed controlled glides between trees, similar to the lifestyle of modern flying squirrels or sugar gliders. Other small dinosaurs like microwings had 4 wings, with long feathers on both the arms and legs, creating aerodynamic surfaces that enabled gliding and perhaps limited flapping flight. These experimental flyers represent evolutionary dead ends that did not lead to modern birds, but demonstrate the multiple ways dinosaurs explored the air before true powered flight evolved. The diversity of wing designs among small feathered dinosaurs suggests that the conquest of the air was not a simple linear progression, but a complex bush of evolutionary experiments. Pterosaurs flew alongside dinosaurs, but were not dinosaurs themselves. The leathery winged flying reptiles known as pterosaurs are often confused with dinosaurs, but actually belong to an entirely separate lineage of archosaurs. Pterosaurs evolved flight independently of both dinosaurs and later birds, using wings formed from skin membranes stretched along an enormously elongated 4th finger. These were the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight, taking to the air millions of years before any dinosaur lineage developed the ability. Pterosaurs ranged from species no larger than sparrows to giants like Quetzalcoatlus, with wingspans exceeding 10 meters, making them the largest flying animals ever to exist. They shared the Mesozoic world with dinosaurs throughout their history, and both groups went extinct together at the end of the Cretaceous. While commonly included in the popular conception of the dinosaur age, pterosaurs occupying the skies overhead were distant cousins of the dinosaurs rather than dinosaurs themselves. Fossilized trackways show herds of dinosaurs traveling together. Some of the most compelling evidence for dinosaur social behavior comes not from bones, but from the tracks they left behind in ancient mud and sand. Trackway sites around the world preserve the footprints of multiple dinosaurs walking in the same direction at the same time, clear evidence of herding behavior. Some of these trackways show dozens or even hundreds of individuals moving together, leaving parallel trails that stretch for kilometers across the landscape. The spacing between tracks often suggests orderly groups rather than panicked stampedes, with animals maintaining consistent distances from their neighbors. In some cases, smaller footprints are found between or behind larger ones, suggesting that juveniles traveled with adults for protection. These frozen moments of dinosaur movement reveal social structures that bones alone could never demonstrate, and show that many dinosaur species lived in coordinated groups. Some dinosaurs may have migrated hundreds of miles each season. Evidence suggests that some dinosaur populations undertook seasonal migrations, similar to those of modern wildebeest or caribou. Isotopic analysis of dinosaur teeth can reveal where animals drank water during different periods of their lives, and some studies suggest travel between distant locations. Trackway evidence from certain sites shows directional movement by large numbers of animals, consistent with migration rather than random wandering. The enormous food requirements of large herbivorous dinosaurs may have made migration necessary in environments with seasonal resource availability. Sauropods consuming hundreds of kilograms of vegetation daily could quickly strip an area of food, requiring movement to fresh feeding grounds. The spectacle of herds of giant dinosaurs moving across prehistoric landscapes, perhaps following ancient routes passed down through generations, would have been one of the most impressive natural phenomena the world has ever witnessed. Tracks reveal dinosaurs running, resting, and even sliding in mud. Fossil trackways capture dinosaurs engaged in a wide range of activities, not just steady walking from place to place. Some tracks show the distinctive pattern of a running gait, with longer stride lengths and deeper toe impressions where the animal pushed off at speed. Other sites preserve marks where dinosaurs appear to have rested, leaving body impressions alongside their footprints. In one remarkable example, a trackway shows a small dinosaur that apparently slipped in mud, leaving skid marks before recovering its footing and continuing on its way. Swimming tracks preserve the tips of toes scraping along underwater surfaces as dinosaurs paddled above. These diverse traces paint a picture of dinosaur daily life in all its variety, from ordinary travel to emergency sprints to clumsy mishaps. Each trace fossil site is a window into a few moments of dinosaur behavior, preserved by chance for millions of years. Some dinosaurs could hear in infrasonic ranges too low for human ears. Analysis of dinosaur skull structure, particularly the inner ear and associated brain regions, suggests that some species could perceive sounds at frequencies below the range of human hearing. These infrasonic calls can travel enormous distances, as low-frequency sounds lose less energy over distance than higher-pitched sounds. Modern elephants use infrasonic communication to coordinate movements across kilometers of savanna, and large dinosaurs may have used similar long-distance calling. The deep resonating chambers of hadrosaur crests would likely have produced sounds in these low frequencies, rumbling calls that could be felt as much as heard. Sauropods, with their massive body sizes and large skulls, were also candidates for infrasonic communication. A world filled with dinosaur calls might have been surprisingly quiet to human ears, while thrumming with subsonic sounds below our perception. T-Rex likely did not roar, but made deep rumbling sounds felt in the chest. The iconic roar of Tyrannosaurus rex in films is almost certainly pure fiction, as this dinosaur likely made sounds quite different from lion roars or any other mammalian vocalization. Birds and crocodilians, the closest living relatives of dinosaurs, do not produce the kind of roaring sounds associated with large cats, and their screaming or bellowing is produced by different vocal anatomy. T-Rex probably lacked the vocal cords that mammals use to produce roars, and instead would have made sounds using air sacs and other structures similar to those in modern birds. The most likely sounds would have been deep, booming calls, hisses and rumbles that could be felt vibrating in the chest at close range. Some researchers suggest T-Rex might have made a closed-mouth sound similar to modern bitterns, a resonant boom that would carry far across the landscape. While perhaps less cinematically dramatic than a lion's roar, the actual vocalizations of T-Rex would have been impressive in their own deep, rumbling way. Some dinosaurs had hollow bones filled with air sacs like modern birds. One of the key innovations that made dinosaurs so successful was the evolution of hollow bones, permeated by air sacs connected to the respiratory system. This skeletal design, inherited and refined further by modern birds, dramatically reduced body weight without sacrificing structural strength. The air sacs extended throughout the skeleton, filling cavities in vertebrae, ribs, and even limb bones in some species. This pneumatization allowed giant sauropods to achieve sizes that would have been impossible with solid bones, as the weight savings were essential at such enormous scales. The hollow spaces within bones are visible in fossils, allowing paleontologists to trace the evolution of this system through dinosaur history. Beyond weight reduction, the air sac system also improved breathing efficiency, allowing for the one-way airflow that makes bird respiration more efficient than that of mammals. Air sacs allowed efficient breathing in even the largest sauropods. The respiratory challenge facing sauropod dinosaurs was enormous, because their very long necks contained huge volumes of dead space, air that would simply slosh back and forth without reaching the lungs. Modern birds solve this problem with a system of air sacs that maintain continuous one-way airflow through the lungs, and sauropods appear to have possessed a similar system. Rather than breathing in and out through the same passages, air would have flowed in a continuous loop through the air sacs and lungs, ensuring fresh oxygen-rich air always passed over the gas exchange surfaces. This efficient breathing system would have been essential for animals requiring massive amounts of oxygen to fuel their enormous bodies. Evidence for this respiratory anatomy comes from the pneumatic cavities visible in sauropod vertebrae, which would have housed extensions of the air sac system. Without such efficient breathing, sauropods might never have been able to evolve their extraordinarily long necks. Sauropods had more than 15 vertebrae in their necks. While most mammals, including giraffes, are limited to just 7 neck vertebrae, sauropod dinosaurs broke all the rules, with necks containing far more individual bones. The most extreme examples, like Mamenchisaurus, possessed 19 cervical vertebrae, each one as large as a piece of furniture in adult animals. Having more vertebrae allowed for greater overall neck length while maintaining flexibility throughout the structure. each vertebra articulated with its neighbors through complex joints that allowed movement while maintaining stability. The elongation was achieved both by adding more vertebrae and by making each individual vertebra longer, with some sauropod neck vertebrae stretching over a meter in length. This multiplication and elongation of cervical vertebrae was a key innovation that enabled the evolution of the spectacular necks that defined sauropod dinosaurs, reaching lengths unmatched by any other terrestrial vertebrates before or since. Some sauropods had nostrils positioned high on their heads. The position of nostril openings in sauropod skulls has puzzled paleontologists for over a century. In many species, the bony nasal openings are located high on the skull, near or even between the eye sockets, rather than at the tip of the snout where we might expect them. Early interpretations suggested sauropods might have been aquatic, using their nostrils like snorkels, while their bodies remained submerged. This idea has been thoroughly discredited, but the question of actual nostril position remains debated. Some researchers argue that the fleshy nostrils were located close to the bony openings, high on the head, while others suggest soft tissue structures placed the actual nostrils much lower, near the tip of the snout. Modern elephants, with their trunks, show that fleshy nasal structures can extend far beyond the bony openings. The position of sauropod nostrils affects reconstructions of these animals' appearance, and different artists portray them in different positions, reflecting this ongoing uncertainty. Stegosaurus had a brain the size of a walnut, despite weighing several tons. Among the most famous facts about dinosaurs is the remarkably small brain of Stegosaurus relative to its enormous body size. This armored dinosaur, weighing several tons and stretching 9 meters in length, had a brain that might have weighed only 80 grams, roughly the size of a large walnut. This extreme disparity led to the popular myth that Stegosaurus had a second brain in its hips to control the back half of its body. Modern anatomical analysis has shown there was no second brain, just an enlargement of the spinal cord typical of many large vertebrates. Nevertheless, Stegosaurus was clearly a creature of limited intelligence, operating largely on instinct rather than learning. The small brain was sufficient for an animal whose lifestyle did not require complex behavior or rapid problem-solving. Stegosaurus survived and thrived for millions of years, despite its modest mental equipment, a reminder that success in evolution does not always require large brains. Dinosaurs lived on every continent, including Antarctica. Dinosaur fossils have been discovered on all 7 continents, demonstrating the truly global distribution these animals achieved during their 160 million year reign. From the Badlands of Montana to the deserts of Mongolia, from the coastlines of Argentina to the cliffs of Antarctica, dinosaur bones have emerged from rocks around the world. This global distribution was facilitated by the very different geography of the Mesozoic era, when continents were joined together and could be traversed without crossing large oceans. Even as the continents began to separate, dinosaurs had already colonized all major landmasses and continued evolving in isolation on different continents. The presence of similar dinosaurs on now separated landmasses provides evidence for continental drift, as these animals could not have crossed the oceans that now separate the continents. Every childhood fascination with dinosaurs is an education in global geography and deep time. Antarctica once had forests full of dinosaurs before becoming frozen. The ice-covered frozen wasteland of modern Antarctica bears no resemblance to the continent as it existed during the age of dinosaurs. During much of the Mesozoic era, Antarctica was positioned closer to the equator and enjoyed a temperate climate, covered with forests, rather than ice sheets. Dinosaur fossils discovered on Antarctic expeditions include a variety of species, from small predators to larger ornithopods, demonstrating that diverse dinosaur communities thrived on this now frozen land. The fossil forests of Antarctica preserve evidence of the vegetation these dinosaurs would have browsed and the ecosystems they inhabited. As the continent drifted south and the global climate cooled, the dinosaurs eventually disappeared from Antarctica, replaced by penguins, seals, and the other cold-adapted species we associate with the region today. The Antarctic dinosaurs are among the most challenging fossils to collect, requiring expeditions to some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. Dinosaurs lived above the Arctic Circle, enduring months of darkness. Some of the most remarkable dinosaur fossils come from locations that during the Mesozoic era lay well above the Arctic Circle, in regions that experienced polar night lasting months during winter. Sites in Alaska and northern Canada have produced fossils of numerous dinosaur species that must have survived in conditions very different from the tropical environments often imagined for the dinosaur age. These polar dinosaurs faced not only cold temperatures, but extended periods of darkness when the sun did not rise above the horizon. How they survived these challenging conditions remains debated, with proposals including seasonal migration, hibernation, or simply adapting to life with limited light and cold temperatures. The diversity of species found in these polar deposits suggests thriving ecosystems rather than marginal populations, barely surviving at the edge of dinosaur range. Polar dinosaurs may have had thick feathers to survive freezing winters. The challenge of surviving freezing temperatures in high-latitude environments would have favored the evolution of insulation, and many paleontologists believe polar dinosaurs were likely heavily feathered. Feathers provide excellent insulation, as demonstrated by modern birds thriving in Arctic and Antarctic environments, and dinosaurs in polar regions would have benefited from the same adaptation. Even dinosaur species that might have been relatively bare in warmer climates could have evolved thicker feather coats in populations living at high latitudes. Evidence for feathers in various dinosaur groups suggests the capacity for dense plumage was present across the dinosaur family tree. Hatchlings and juveniles would have been especially vulnerable to cold, and may have had particularly thick downy covering to survive their first winters. The image of fluffy, heavily feathered dinosaurs trudging through snow is supported by the evidence of their presence in polar environments. Some dinosaurs could survive months of darkness during polar winters. Life above the Arctic Circle requires adaptation to a light cycle fundamentally different from lower latitudes, with months when the sun never sets followed by months when it never rises. Dinosaurs living in these polar regions must have been able to function during extended darkness, hunting or foraging in conditions that would seem impossibly challenging. Large eyes found in some polar dinosaur specimens suggest enhanced night vision that would have been useful during dark polar winters. The ability to continue gathering food during darkness would have been essential for survival, as months of inactivity would require enormous fat reserves. Some researchers suggest polar dinosaurs may have entered states of reduced activity similar to hibernation, though there is no direct evidence for this behavior. The success of dinosaurs in polar environments demonstrates their remarkable adaptability to conditions far from the warm tropical settings often pictured. Dinosaurs and flowering plants evolved around the same time. The first flowering plants, or angiosperms, appeared during the early Cretaceous period, while dinosaurs were at the height of their diversity and dominance. This was no coincidence, as the evolution of these two groups may have been intimately linked in ways we are only beginning to understand. Early flowering plants were small, weedy species, quite different from the dominant conifers, ferns, and cycads that had fed herbivorous dinosaurs for millions of years. The rapid diversification of flowering plants during the Cretaceous represented one of the most dramatic transformations in the history of life on Earth. As angiosperms evolved, They developed new types of fruits, seeds, and leaves that would have provided novel food sources for dinosaurs and other animals. The coevolution of dinosaurs and flowering plants set the stage for the ecosystems that would eventually support the mammals that inherited the Earth after the dinosaurs departed. By the end of the Cretaceous, flowering plants dominated Earth. Although flowering plants began as modest components of Cretaceous ecosystems, they had achieved global dominance by the time the dinosaurs met their end. The explosion of angiosperm diversity produced the familiar flowers, fruits, and broad-leaved trees that populate our modern world, replacing the more ancient vegetation that had sustained dinosaurs for so long. This revolution in plant life probably had profound effects on dinosaur evolution, as herbivores adapted to new food sources and the entire structure of terrestrial ecosystems shifted. By the late Cretaceous, flowering plants dominated many environments, while conifers and other older plant groups were pushed into more marginal habitats. The dinosaurs that died in the mass extinction were living in a world that botanically resembled our own far more than it resembled the earlier Mesozoic landscapes of ferns and sea cycads. The rise of flowering plants was one of the most significant ecological transformations to occur during the entire age of dinosaurs. Some small dinosaurs may have helped pollinate early flowers. The relationship between early flowering plants and the animals that pollinated them is one of the great stories in evolutionary history, and some dinosaurs may have played a role in this ancient partnership. Small feathered dinosaurs that fed on nectar or on insects attracted to flowers could have transferred pollen between plants, just as hummingbirds and butterflies do today. Some early angiosperms had flower structures consistent with being visited by small vertebrates rather than insects. While we have no direct evidence of dinosaur pollination, the presence of diverse small feathered dinosaurs in Cretaceous ecosystems makes such interactions plausible. Any dinosaur feeding on flowers or their residents would have inevitably carried pollen on feathers or snouts, potentially fertilizing subsequent flowers visited. If dinosaurs did help pollinate early flowers, they contributed to the rise of the very plant group that now dominates the terrestrial world. Dinosaurs may have spread seeds through their droppings across landscapes. Large herbivorous dinosaurs consuming enormous quantities of vegetation would have ingested countless seeds, along with the leaves, fruits, and stems they ate. Many of these seeds would have passed through the digestive system intact and been deposited far from the parent plant in nutrient-rich droppings. This process, called endozoochory, is a major mechanism of seed dispersal in modern ecosystems, with elephants, birds, and other animals spreading plants across vast distances. Dinosaurs would have been exceptionally effective seed dispersers given their enormous food consumption and wide-ranging movements. A herd of migrating sauropods could have spread seeds across entire continents, helping plants colonize new territories far faster than wind or water dispersal would allow. The droppings of dinosaurs may have been as important for plant ecology as the animals themselves were for the landscapes they inhabited. Giant sauropods may have produced enough methane to influence the climate. Like modern cattle and other large herbivores, sauropod dinosaurs would have harbored gut bacteria that produced methane as a byproduct of digesting plant material. Given the enormous populations of sauropods that roamed the Mesozoic world and the vast quantities of vegetation they consumed, some researchers have calculated that dinosaur methane production could have been a significant source of greenhouse gases. Estimates suggest that sauropod flatulence might have released as much as 500 million tons of methane annually, comparable to total modern atmospheric methane from all sources combined. This dinosaur-produced methane could have contributed to the warm global climate of the Mesozoic era, creating a feedback loop in which warm temperatures produced abundant vegetation that fed dinosaur populations that produced more warming. While the calculations involve considerable uncertainty, the idea that dinosaurs might have warmed their own world adds a new dimension to our understanding of ancient climate. Dinosaurs coexisted with early mammals for over 100 million years. Contrary to the common misconception that mammals appeared only after dinosaurs became extinct, the two groups shared the Earth for the vast majority of dinosaur history. The first mammals appeared during the Triassic period, very close in time to the first dinosaurs, and both groups evolved together for over 160 million years. Throughout this long coexistence, mammals remained generally small, rarely exceeding the size of modern badgers, and most being considerably smaller. The ecological dominance of dinosaurs appears to have limited mammal evolution, preventing them from diversifying into the larger body sizes and varied ecological roles they would later achieve. Small mammals occupied niches as insectivores, omnivores, and perhaps nocturnal foragers in a world dominated by their reptilian contemporaries. Only after the dinosaur extinction opened up ecological opportunities did mammals begin their explosive diversification into the dominant land animals of our current era. Some early mammals were bold enough to prey on baby dinosaurs. While Mesozoic mammals were generally small creatures surviving in the shadow of dinosaurs, some were more formidable than their modest sizes might suggest. Repenomamus, a badger-sized mammal from Cretaceous China, was found with the remains of a baby dinosaur preserved in its stomach, direct evidence of mammalian predation on dinosaurs. This discovery overturned the image of Mesozoic mammals as timid insectivores cowering from dinosaur predators. At over a meter in length, Repenomamus was large enough to tackle small prey, including juvenile dinosaurs that strayed too far from parental protection. Other Mesozoic mammals show adaptations for swimming, gliding, and burrowing, revealing surprising diversity in lifestyles despite their restricted size range. The mammals living alongside dinosaurs were not merely survivors waiting for their chance, but active participants in Mesozoic ecosystems, occupying ecological roles that would later be filled by their enlarged descendants. Pterosaurs dominated the skies while dinosaurs ruled the land. The aerial realm of the Mesozoic belonged to the pterosaurs, flying reptiles that evolved powered flight long before any dinosaur took to the air. These were the first vertebrates to achieve true flapping flight, using wings made of skin membrane stretched along an enormously elongated fourth finger. Pterosaurs ranged from species smaller than sparrows to giants, with wingspans exceeding 10 meters, the largest flying animals ever to exist. They occupied ecological roles now filled by birds and bats, from fish-eating soarers to small insectivores to scavenging giants. Throughout the Mesozoic, pterosaurs and dinosaurs shared the world, with pterosaurs in the air and dinosaurs dominating on land. Only the evolution of birds, which were themselves dinosaurs, eventually challenged pterosaur supremacy in the air, and both groups went extinct together in the end Cretaceous catastrophe. Marine reptiles filled the oceans, but were not dinosaurs. While dinosaurs ruled the land, the oceans were dominated by a spectacular array of marine reptiles that are often incorrectly called dinosaurs, but actually belong to completely different lineages. Ichthyosaurs resembled dolphins and porpoises, evolving fish-shaped bodies for life in open waters where they hunted fish and squid. Plesiosaurs, with their long necks and paddle-like flippers, became icons of prehistoric marine life and inspired countless sea monster legends. Mosasaurs, the giant marine lizards that dominated late Cretaceous seas, were related to modern monitor lizards rather than to dinosaurs. These marine reptiles breathed air like dinosaurs, but were entirely aquatic, giving birth to live young, rather than laying eggs on beaches. Their parallel existence with dinosaurs demonstrates how different reptile groups diversified to dominate different environments during the Mesozoic era. Insects and other invertebrates thrived alongside dinosaurs in ancient forests. The dinosaur world was filled with countless invertebrates that formed the base of many food chains and pollinated plants, decomposed organic matter, and occupied virtually every ecological niche. Insects of the Mesozoic included many familiar groups such as beetles, flies, ants, and bees, as well as now extinct forms that filled roles no modern insect occupies. Giant dragonflies with wingspans approaching a meter had flown in earlier periods, but had largely given way to smaller species by dinosaur times. Spiders, scorpions, millipedes, and countless other arthropods crawled through the undergrowth, providing food for small dinosaurs and mammals alike. Amber from the Cretaceous has preserved remarkable specimens of Mesozoic insects, sometimes including dinosaur feathers caught in the sticky resin. The invertebrate fauna of the dinosaur age was as diverse and ecologically important as invertebrates are today, though often overlooked in favor of the more charismatic vertebrates. Fossilized stomach contents reveal what dinosaurs actually ate. The most direct evidence for dinosaur diet comes from the occasional discovery of fossilized stomach contents, preserved remains of the last meals eaten by individual dinosaurs. These extraordinary fossils provide snapshots of actual feeding behavior, rather than inferences based on tooth shape or ecological context. The gut contents of various dinosaurs have revealed fish scales in the bellies of spinosaurids, baby dinosaur bones inside a Repenomamus mammal, and even the remains of early birds in predatory dinosaur stomachs. Herbivorous dinosaurs sometimes preserve plant materials including seeds, conifer fragments, and flowering plant tissues. In one remarkable case, a tyrannosaur specimen contained identifiable remains of hadrosaurs, confirming the predatory habits these animals were assumed to have. Each preserved gut content represents an extraordinary stroke of preservation, as soft tissues and partially digested materials are rarely fossilized, even when skeletal remains are well preserved. Fossilized dung called coprolites can weigh more than 40 pounds. Dinosaur droppings, preserved as fossils called coprolites, provide direct evidence of diet and digestion that no amount of tooth or bone analysis can match. Large carnivorous dinosaurs produced coprolites of truly impressive size, with some specimens exceeding 40 pounds or nearly 20 kilograms. These massive waste deposits contain bone fragments, scales, and other indigestible remains that reveal what the producing animal actually consumed. Tyrannosaur coprolites have been found containing pulverized bone, confirming that these predators consumed their prey skeleton and all. Herbivore coprolites preserve plant tissue, seeds, and sometimes the remains of parasites that infected the living dinosaur. Analyzing coprolites requires the same careful techniques used for other fossils, and these unglamorous specimens can reveal more about dinosaur biology than many more impressive skeletal finds. Some fossils preserve dinosaur skin showing scales, feathers, and quills. Under exceptional conditions of preservation, dinosaur fossils can retain impressions of skin that reveal the external covering these animals wore in life. Hadrosaur mummies from the American West preserve extensive skin impressions showing pebbled scales of various sizes arranged in patterns specific to different body regions. Ceratopsian fossils have revealed the distinctive texture of horned dinosaur hide, while spectacularly preserved specimens from China show feathers and quills on theropods of many kinds. These skin impressions tell us that dinosaur integumentary covering was as diverse as the animals themselves, ranging from simple scales to complex feathers depending on species and evolutionary lineage. Some specimens preserve enough detail to reveal the size and arrangement of individual scales, allowing artists to create accurate reconstructions of dinosaur appearance. Each new skin impression expands our understanding of how dinosaurs actually looked in life. Amber has preserved dinosaur feathers in perfect microscopic detail. Amber, fossilized tree resin that trapped and preserved small objects millions of years ago, has provided some of the most detailed dinosaur remains ever discovered. Several pieces of Cretaceous amber from Myanmar contain dinosaur feathers preserved in three-dimensional perfection, showing microscopic details invisible in compressed fossil feathers from rock. The structure of individual feather barbules and their interlocking hooks can be studied, revealing the evolutionary development of feather complexity. One remarkable amber specimen contains the feathered tip of a small dinosaur tail, complete with preserved feathers, soft tissue, and even bone fragments. These amber inclusions show that feathered dinosaurs were present in Cretaceous forests, their feathers occasionally becoming trapped in the sticky resin flowing from ancient trees. The level of detail preserved in amber far exceeds what conventional fossilization can provide, making these specimens invaluable windows into dinosaur biology. Fossilized soft tissue has been discovered inside dinosaur bones. One of the most astonishing discoveries in recent paleontology has been the recovery of apparent soft tissues from inside dinosaur bones, tens of millions of years old. When a Tyrannosaurus rex thigh bone was dissolved in acid during routine analysis, researchers discovered flexible, stretchy material resembling blood vessels and even structures that looked like red blood cells. This discovery challenged the conventional wisdom that soft tissues could not survive for more than a few million years at most. Subsequent investigations have found similar materials in other dinosaur specimens, suggesting that under certain conditions, organic material can persist far longer than anyone expected. The discovery sparked both excitement about potential DNA recovery and controversy about whether these materials are truly original dinosaur tissue or products of bacterial contamination. Ongoing research continues to investigate the nature and preservation of these remarkable materials. Scientists have even recovered dinosaur proteins millions of years old. Beyond the controversial soft tissue discoveries, rigorous chemical analysis has confirmed the presence of original dinosaur proteins in some fossil specimens. Using sophisticated mass spectrometry techniques, researchers have identified molecular fragments of collagen and other structural proteins in dinosaur bones. These protein fragments carry characteristic molecular signatures that distinguish them from contamination and match expectations for proteins from reptilian and avian sources. The recovery of dinosaur proteins allows researchers to compare molecular sequences between extinct dinosaurs and their living relatives, providing a new avenue for studying evolutionary relationships. While complete DNA sequences remain far beyond current recovery capabilities, protein fragments provide glimpses of dinosaur molecular biology that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. Each new molecular discovery extends our understanding of what information can survive for millions of years, and raises hopes for future advances in paleomolecular biology. The first dinosaur fossils were mistaken for giant human bones. The earliest Europeans to encounter dinosaur fossils had no framework for understanding what they had found, and made interpretations that seem bizarre in hindsight. A partial femur discovered in England in the 17th century was illustrated and described as belonging to a giant human, fitting the biblical narrative of antediluvian giants that once walked the earth. Other large bones were attributed to elephants brought to Britain by Roman invaders, attempts to fit mysterious fossils into known history. The true nature of these fossils as remains of ancient reptiles would not be understood until the 19th century, when comparative anatomy advanced enough to distinguish dinosaur bones from those of mammals. The initial misidentifications were not failures of intelligence, but natural responses to discoveries that challenged everything known about the history of life. Even today, we can sympathize with people trying to make sense of bones far larger than anything in the living world. Ancient cultures sometimes thought dinosaur bones belonged to dragons. Long before scientific paleontology existed, people around the world found dinosaur fossils and incorporated them into mythologies and legends. In China, dinosaur bones and teeth were collected as dragon bones, ground into medicine believed to have healing powers. The griffin legends of Central Asia may have originated from the observation of Protoceratops skulls in the Gobi Desert, their beaked faces and frilled heads, inspiring tales of eagle-headed lions guarding gold. Native American cultures had their own explanations for the giant bones they found, often attributing them to monsters or supernatural beings. The prevalence of dragon mythology across so many disconnected cultures may reflect widespread human encounters with dinosaur fossils and attempts to explain these inexplicable giant bones. Before science provided the true explanation, mythology filled the explanatory gap with stories that satisfied human curiosity about the unknown. The bone wars of the 1800s led to over 100 new species being named. The latter half of the 19th century witnessed an explosive period of dinosaur discovery in North America, fueled by intense rivalry between two of the era's most prominent paleontologists. Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope competed furiously to discover and name new dinosaur species, deploying teams of fossil hunters across the American West in what became known as the Bone Wars. This intense competition led to the discovery of many of the most iconic dinosaurs, including Stegosaurus, Allosaurus, Diplodocus, and Triceratops. Between them, Marsh and Cope named over 130 new species of dinosaurs, though many were later found to be invalid or duplicates. The Bone Wars transformed American paleontology from a modest scientific pursuit into a major enterprise with significant public interest. Museums filled with spectacular dinosaur skeletons and public fascination with prehistoric life exploded in ways that continue to this day. Rival fossil hunters once sabotaged each other's excavations. The competition between Marsh and Cope descended from scientific rivalry into bitter personal animosity that led to outrageous behavior on both sides. Fossil hunters working for one paleontologist would spy on the camps of the other, reporting discoveries and plans to their employers. The rivalry became so intense that both men allegedly instructed their workers to destroy fossils they could not collect themselves, rather than leave them for the competition. Fossil sites were dynamited after excavation to prevent rivals from finding anything left behind. Both men used newspapers and scientific publications to attack each other's competence, honesty, and scientific judgment. The personal feud eventually ruined both men financially and professionally, though their combined discoveries transformed paleontology. The Bone Wars stand as both a cautionary tale about scientific rivalry and a demonstration of how competition can drive extraordinary discovery. Some Bone Wars discoveries later turned out to be misidentified or fake. In the rush to name new species and claim priority over rivals, Marsh and Cope sometimes made errors that later researchers would have to correct. Both men occasionally named the same dinosaur twice, creating synonyms that cluttered the scientific literature for decades. Cope famously mounted the skull of Elasmosaurus on the wrong end of its skeleton, placing the head on the tail tip, a mistake that Marsh gleefully publicized. Some specimens were assembled from bones of multiple individuals, or even different species, creating chimeric dinosaurs that never actually existed. The pressure to publish quickly and claim credit meant that careful analysis sometimes gave way to hasty descriptions. Later generations of paleontologists have spent considerable effort sorting through Bone Wars material, determining which names are valid and which should be discarded. The legacy of the Bone Wars includes both genuinely important discoveries and a tangled nomenclatural mess. New dinosaur species are still discovered almost every month. Despite over 2 centuries of dinosaur paleontology, the rate of new dinosaur discovery shows no sign of slowing down. On average, a new dinosaur species is named approximately every 2 weeks, with some years seeing over 50 new species added to the roster. Newly opened fossil fields in China, Argentina, and Africa are producing spectacular discoveries, while even well-searched regions like North America continue to yield new species. Advances in analysis techniques mean that specimens in museum collections are sometimes recognized as new species, after decades of being misidentified. The total number of known dinosaur genera now exceeds 1,000, yet this surely represents only a fraction of the diversity that actually existed. Many dinosaur species lived in environments where fossilization was unlikely, and many fossils lie in unexplored or inaccessible regions. The golden age of dinosaur discovery is far from over, and future generations will undoubtedly know far more dinosaur species than we do today. An asteroid struck Earth 66 million years ago, ending the dinosaur age. The reign of the dinosaurs came to a sudden and catastrophic end when a massive asteroid from the depths of space crashed into our planet approximately 66 million years ago. This was not a gradual decline, but a violent punctuation mark that ended the Mesozoic era and transformed the trajectory of life on Earth forever. The asteroid, estimated at roughly 10 to 15 kilometers in diameter, approached at speeds exceeding 20 kilometers per second, faster than anything in everyday human experience. In the seconds after impact, the immediate vicinity was obliterated in a blast of unimaginable fury, but the effects would spread rapidly across the entire globe. Within hours, days, and years following the impact, environmental catastrophes cascaded through Earth's ecosystems, driving most dinosaur species and countless other organisms to extinction. This single moment in time, a chance collision between Earth and a wandering piece of cosmic debris, changed everything. The impact crater lies buried beneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. For decades after scientists proposed the asteroid impact hypothesis, the actual crater remained undiscovered, hidden beneath layers of sediment accumulated over millions of years. The breakthrough came when geophysical surveys of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico revealed a massive circular structure buried deep beneath the surface, centered near the town of Chicxulub. The Chicxulub crater measures approximately 180 kilometers in diameter, testimony to the extraordinary violence of the impact that created it. Core samples drilled into the crater have recovered shocked minerals and other evidence of the tremendous pressures and temperatures generated by the collision. The precise location of the impact, on the edge of a shallow sea with massive sulfate-rich deposits, may have made the extinction particularly severe due to the specific materials vaporized by the blast. Today, the crater is invisible from the surface, but its circular rim can be traced through subtle geological features and sinkholes formed by the buried ring structure. The asteroid released more energy than billions of atomic bombs combined. The energy released by the Chicxulub impact is almost beyond human comprehension, exceeding by many orders of magnitude the largest explosions in human history. Estimates suggest the impact released energy equivalent to 100 million megatons of TNT, more than 1 billion times more powerful than the atomic bombs that devastated Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This immense energy was converted into heat, light, seismic waves, and the kinetic energy of debris blasted into the atmosphere and beyond. The initial fireball would have been visible from thousands of kilometers away, and within seconds, everything within hundreds of kilometers of the impact site was completely destroyed. The shockwave from the explosion raced outward at supersonic speeds, flattening forests and killing animals across much of North America within the first hour. No nuclear arsenal ever assembled by humanity could approach the destructive power of this single natural event. The impact caused tsunamis taller than the tallest skyscrapers. The Chicxulub asteroid struck in shallow coastal waters, and the energy transferred to the ocean generated tsunamis of almost inconceivable scale. Initial waves may have reached heights of 100 meters or more, taller than the Statue of Liberty, and approaching the height of the tallest buildings of the ancient world. These mega tsunamis raced outward from the impact site at jet aircraft speeds, inundating coastlines thousands of kilometers away within hours. Evidence of these waves can be found in coastal deposits around the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean, where sediments were churned and redistributed by the passing flood. As the waves traveled into shallower waters, they grew taller and more destructive, devastating coastal ecosystems and their inhabitants. The impact-generated tsunamis were among the most immediate and violent consequences of the asteroid strike, killing countless organisms before other effects even began. Molten rock rained down across continents, igniting worldwide firestorms. The asteroid impact ejected enormous quantities of rock and debris into the atmosphere, with some material achieving velocities high enough to escape Earth's gravity and rain back down around the entire planet. As this ejected debris re-entered the atmosphere, friction heated it to incandescence, creating a rain of molten rock visible for the brief moments before each fragment hit the ground. The collective heating effect of billions of re-entering fragments may have raised surface temperatures enough to ignite vegetation across much of the planet. The resulting firestorms consumed forests and grasslands, creating a layer of soot and charcoal that can still be detected in geological deposits at the extinction boundary. Animals caught in the open would have been killed by the radiant heat even before flames reached them. The global firestorms were a secondary catastrophe following the initial impact, spreading destruction far beyond the immediate blast zone. Ash clouds blocked the sun, plunging Earth into years of darkness. In the aftermath of the impact, dust and debris injected into the upper atmosphere spread around the globe, blocking sunlight and plunging Earth into an artificial winter lasting years. Photosynthesis virtually ceased as plants could no longer receive the sunlight necessary for growth, causing the collapse of food chains from the bottom up. Herbivorous dinosaurs starved as their food sources withered, and carnivores that depended on herbivores followed them into extinction. Global temperatures dropped dramatically as the blanket of dust prevented solar warming, with some estimates suggesting temperature declines of over 10 degrees Celsius. Beyond the initial darkness, acid rain generated by gases released in the impact further stressed survivors, acidifying oceans and damaging terrestrial ecosystems. The impact winter persisted far longer than any animal could simply wait out, making survival dependent on adaptations to low light, low food conditions. More than 75% of all species on Earth went extinct. The Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, as scientists formally name it, eliminated approximately 3/4 of all species on Earth in a geological instant. Every non-avian dinosaur species perished, along with all pterosaurs, most marine reptiles, and countless species of plants, invertebrates, and marine microorganisms. The oceans were hit particularly hard, with many groups of marine organisms disappearing entirely, including the ammonites, coiled relatives of modern nautiluses that had thrived for hundreds of millions of years. On land, no animal larger than about 25 kilograms survived the catastrophe, a size threshold that sealed the fate of all the large dinosaurs. The survivors included small mammals, birds, crocodilians, snakes, and various other groups, whose specific adaptations allowed them to endure the years of darkness and cold. From this remnant population, life would slowly rebuild, eventually producing the diverse ecosystems we know today, including ultimately ourselves. Birds are the only dinosaurs that survived the mass extinction. When the asteroid impact devastated Earth's ecosystem 66 million years ago, one lineage of dinosaurs managed to survive the catastrophe, a lineage we know today as birds. The birds that lived through the extinction event were small, adaptable creatures capable of surviving on seeds, insects, and other food sources that remained available during the years of darkness. Their small body size meant they required less food than their larger relatives, and many may have been ground-dwelling species that could exploit protected microhabitats. From this modest remnant population, birds would diversify spectacularly over the following millions of years, producing the 10,000 or more species we know today. Every bird alive today is a direct descendant of dinosaurs that survived what their larger relatives could not. In the most literal sense, dinosaurs did not go extinct. They evolved wings and took to the skies. Archaeopteryx was the first known bird-like dinosaur with feathers and teeth. Discovered in Germany in the 1860s, just years after Darwin published On the Origin of Species, Archaeopteryx became one of the most important fossils ever found. This crow-sized creature possessed an extraordinary combination of features, including feathered wings, a long bony tail, teeth in its jaws, and claws on its fingers. Archaeopteryx appeared to be exactly the transitional form Darwin's theory predicted, an animal caught midway in the evolution from dinosaurs to birds. For over a century, Archaeopteryx was considered the oldest and most primitive bird, the ancestor from which all later birds descended. More recent discoveries in China have complicated this picture, revealing numerous feathered dinosaurs that blur the boundary between dinosaurs and birds even further. Nevertheless, Archaeopteryx remains iconic, a beautiful demonstration of evolution captured in stone, and a reminder of the deep connections between birds and their dinosaur ancestors. Every sparrow, eagle, and penguin alive today is a living dinosaur. From a scientific perspective, birds are not merely descended from dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs, the only surviving branch of a once mighty family tree. This is not a metaphor or an analogy, but a statement of evolutionary fact, as certain as calling humans mammals or calling mushrooms fungi. When you watch a sparrow at a feeder or a hawk circling overhead, you are watching a dinosaur every bit as much as if you could travel back in time to see Tyrannosaurus hunting. The anatomical features that define dinosaurs, including specialized hip structures, hollow bones, and numerous other skeletal characteristics, are all present in birds. Recognizing birds as living dinosaurs transforms our perception of these familiar creatures, connecting the pigeons on city streets to the magnificent giants of the Mesozoic. The dinosaur age did not end. It continues every day, everywhere birds fly, walk, or swim. Velociraptor was covered in feathers and looked more like a bird than a reptile. The actual Velociraptor bore little resemblance to the scaly, humanoid-sized creature depicted in famous films. Real Velociraptor was covered in feathers, a fact confirmed by the discovery of quill knobs on its forearm bones, where large feathers would have attached. These feathers would have given Velociraptor the appearance of a large, aggressive ground bird rather than a naked reptile. Combined with its small size, roughly that of a large turkey, feathered Velociraptor would have been a very different creature from the movie monster that bears its name. The wings were too small for flight, but probably served display functions, and perhaps helped maintain balance during attacks. Understanding what Velociraptor actually looked like helps us appreciate the close relationship between dromaeosaurid dinosaurs and their bird descendants, a relationship far closer than most popular media has depicted. Dilophosaurus never spat venom or had a frill despite what films suggest. The Dilophosaurus featured in certain famous films bears almost no resemblance to the actual dinosaur known from fossils. Real Dilophosaurus was a large predator measuring over 6 meters in length, not the small, dog-sized creature shown on screen. There is absolutely no evidence that Dilophosaurus had a retractable neck frill or could spit venom at its prey. The fossil skull shows distinctive twin crests that were used for display, but nothing remotely resembling the cobra-like frill of movie fame. These dramatic additions were creative inventions by filmmakers seeking to make the dinosaur more memorable, not reconstructions based on scientific evidence. While artistic license is understandable in entertainment, the resulting misconceptions have persisted in popular culture for decades. The real Dilophosaurus was impressive enough without fictional embellishments, an early large predatory dinosaur with distinctive ornamentation that needs no venomous Hollywood makeover. Over 1,000 dinosaur species have been identified so far. The catalogue of known dinosaur species now exceeds 1,000 genera, with new discoveries adding to this total every year. This impressive number represents only a fraction of the dinosaurs that actually existed, as fossilization preserves only a tiny percentage of organisms, and many regions of the world remain unexplored paleontologically. Some researchers estimate that only about 25% of the dinosaur genera that actually existed have been discovered so far. The diversity of known species spans an extraordinary range of body sizes, ecological roles, and geographic distributions. From the Arctic to Antarctica, from tiny insectivores to colossal herbivores, dinosaurs filled virtually every terrestrial ecological niche available during their 160-million-year reign. Each new species discovered adds to our understanding of dinosaur evolution and ecology, and the rate of discovery shows no sign of slowing. The story of dinosaurs continues in every bird that takes flight today. The tale of the dinosaurs is not a story that ended 66 million years ago in fire and darkness. It is an ongoing narrative that continues all around us every day. Every bird that sings at dawn, hunts insects on the wing, or migrates across hemispheres is carrying forward the dinosaur legacy into the modern world. The evolutionary journey from Coelophysis through Archaeopteryx to the 10,000 bird species alive today represents an unbroken chain of ancestors and descendants spanning over 230 million years. When we study birds, we study living dinosaurs, learning about dinosaur biology and behavior from creatures we can observe directly, rather than only inferring from fossils. The dinosaurs achieved what few other animal groups have managed, surviving the worst mass extinction in recent geological history, and not just persisting but flourishing in the world that followed. Every time a bird takes flight, the story of the dinosaurs continues to unfold, their ancient lineage soaring into the future on feathered wings. And now the quiet wonders of the dinosaurs begin to gently fade into the stillness of the night. You have wandered through over 100 peaceful truths about creatures that ruled our planet for 160 million years. From tiny feathered raptors no bigger than turkeys, to towering sauropods longer than 3 buses. From the delicate eggs buried in ancient nests, to the final cataclysm that brought their reign to an end. You have explored how they lived in herds, cared for their young, and filled every corner of the ancient world. How their bones became the stuff of legend, mistaken for dragons and giants by those who found them, long before we understood what they truly were. How their feathers shimmered with colors we are only now beginning to imagine. You are connected to this story. The atoms in your body were forged in the same stars that lit the skies above the dinosaurs. The birds singing outside your window are their living descendants. Every sparrow, every eagle, every penguin carries within it the legacy of creatures that walked this planet millions of years before we existed. Their story did not end. It transformed. If your eyes feel heavy now, let them close. Let the rhythm of your breath become steady, like the slow pulse of footsteps crossing ancient plains, like the patient rhythm of generations rising and falling across deep time. Tonight, as you rest, the story of the dinosaurs continues. In museums where their bones stand silent and magnificent. In the ground beneath our feet where countless fossils still wait to be discovered. In the wings of every bird that takes flight at dawn. You are a small, warm presence within this vast prehistoric story, peacefully resting among the wonders. Sleep well. Sweet dreams. And may you carry with you the quiet knowledge that the dinosaurs never truly vanished, that their descendants still fill our skies with song, and that the story of life on Earth continues its patient transformation, long after the last thought of the day has faded into peaceful darkness. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the lost world of the dinosaurs. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Drowsy Discovery for more soothing explorations of prehistoric wonders and ancient mysteries. There are more wonders waiting. More secrets buried in stone. More gentle truths to drift through on quiet evenings. Rest well, and may the quiet echoes of deep time keep you company through the night. This has been Drowsy Discovery. Good night.